unfortunately we came up with the acronym before anyone had a chance to say it, and went into the project bid, and people call it the EILE bid, the EILE bid, the EILE is hard enough to say. But we're University of Kent, the lead institution. We're partnering with Canterbury Christchurch, and also we have a corporate partner in IMS Global Learning Consortium. The acronym stands for Enabling Integrated Learning Environments. Our learning environment is Moodle, and we have two ways that we would like to integrate into Moodle. One is on the left-hand side there you can see we have the concept of a Moodle block, and the other way is to use or leverage Moodle's activities and resources to integrate entire systems. So I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. So this is the model that we normally have with our application designers on the left-hand side and poor old us on this side, and applications approaches want to be integrated. Now the way that we're having to do this at the moment is to build standard integration, custom integrations for each one. They're very difficult to maintain. There's the element of trust there that needs to be worked on. Normally either by the VLE owners doing a full code review of the integration, which takes a long time, or doing the integration themselves, which is then a long-term relationship between the two. So there's an element of development there that we'd like to get rid of, and also it can slow down the innovation speed to market from the application developers' point of view. So if they set up an integration with us and then they add a new feature, it might be a while before that feature is reflected in the VLE because the integration component doesn't support it. So we're partnering with IMS to work on their LTI specifications. Anyone heard about LTI? It stands for Learning Tools Interoperability. And we will be using this as a single point of integration. So the concept is that once someone becomes compliant with LTI, they should be able to integrate with Moodle as a resource or an activity. So that allows us to leverage LTI's trust model, which means that as long as someone is compliant with LTI, we trust the LTI component to protect our VLE, both in terms of security and also in the integrity of the system. This will allow us to do a couple of things also. It allows us to intelligently link from the VLE, from Moodle, to the application. So we can send some data across with our launch process and say we are this person, we're studying this course, so show us some relevant information to us. That's it for that one. And do we have any, so who uses Moodle in the room? Okay, anyone on Blackboard or Sakai? So another thing to consider, quite a few there actually, another thing to consider is that once an application designer is compliant with LTI, so long as the other VLE support the standard and it's on all of their roadmaps to do so, then that application can be used across institutions no matter what VLE they're on, so long as they support the standard. The second half of our project touches upon most of the same points. It's the same reason why we're doing it. It's just a different way that we want to consume the data, and that's through web services. So this is in an effort to unlock some of the data that's held up in our disparate information systems and make it available via web services and consume it into the Moodle block, and the Moodle block will be configured to display the data in the appropriate way. So this allows us to display information in line. In fact, timetabling is one of the things we're going to be looking at. We have our timetable data in our student data system. We need to now integrate that into our VLE, so we're going to look into how we can do this via web services. Excuse me. We're also hoping this will act as a catalyst. Another problem we've got at the moment is that we're trying to encourage people to develop web services on top of their data, but really there's no endpoint. We're not ready to consume them. So we're hoping that once this is out there, this mechanism for consuming systems, people will start putting effort into becoming compliant and looking at ways in which they can unlock their data. Sorry, that's an example of a Moodle block. So the deliverables are, we'll be producing Moodle consumers for each standard. These will act as blueprints, we hope, for the other VLEs. We're working very closely with IMS, and they've asked us to do the first implementation of an LTI consumer. We're going to be doing this for Moodle. We'll keep as much of it as possible generic and as a reference implementation so it can be used for the other VLEs. We'll produce one or more example providers, depends how much time we have. And also tutorials on how to become compliant, which will accompany these providers. So we'll have examples that people can follow, and hopefully we'll be able to visit a few of you to talk you through this process as well. Another problem we've identified is that once we become this avenue for deploying applications, is that it will open the floodgates somewhat, and we'll get a lot lots of requests saying, can we integrate with you? We have a responsibility there to protect our VLE, protect the integrity of what our learning department are trying to do with the VLE. So we're going to come up with a list of evaluation criteria. So when a candidate comes along, if they match up the criteria, then we should be able to allow them through, and also gives us a very polite way of saying no thank you. So if you'd like to find out more, I suggest if you are Moodle users, there is a basic LTI for Moodle plugin which also has a reference implementation with it. It's interesting, it's the precursor to the full LTI specification, and it's well worth a look. Also, we're on Twitter and we have our Kent blog, but we'll make sure that's aggregated into the JISC one as well. That's it. Any questions?